All right, Chelsea fans, welcome back to another episode of the London is Blue podcast. As always, host Brandon, my co-host Nick and Dan, and gentlemen, we got the Manchester United match review, midweek madness as predicted. You guys had to turn on a pretty quick preview episode. Dan, obviously, with Sam. After the weekend, the chaos is starting not only for us, but apparently for the club on the pitch as well.
Well, there were not a lot of correct predictions in that episode, so I guess we're just going to go back to the drawing board for the end of this week when we talk about the Everton match, which, I mean, I guess I'm of two minds, Nick. There's the time where it's like a match after a result like this is kind of potentially the palate cleanser you need, or it's just further doom and dread because you feel like there's not a way to avert the course we're already on. Like we're already falling off the cliff. You can't unfall.
Yeah, when I talked to Naz a couple weeks ago before Thanksgiving, he made the point that typically you can write the Chelsea don't play well against Everton article before we go up to Goodison. So, there we are again in one of these dumb situations where results have not gone well, and we encounter another trip to a stadium where we historically don't play well. So, cool.
One thing at a time. We'll be definitely breaking down the United, and then we can look ahead. But gentlemen, one match at a time. You know how we do it. It'll be a little bit different, I think, after the match that we displayed today. Instead of going through all the details and the nitty gritty, I think we can kind of take a step back and talk about a little bit more of what's going on at the club, especially at a high level, trends, right? So with that being said, we will still start with the 3-word match review as we always do. So Dan, the people have spoken. What in the world do we have?
Spanish Joe getting us started with McTominated by Man U. They merged the words together so that they could fit that one in. I'll allow it. On a day where there's not a lot of joy, I'm going to allow a couple things. McLeasy with 21 from safety, talking about how many more points Chelsea might need to be completely safe this season in the Premier League. TK Lott with injuries, exhaustion, mediocrity. You had Mr. Thurman with mid and mid-table. We're putting the mid in mid-table. Emma with we were embarrassing. Connor with we brought the JVs. For maybe those who don't know, the junior varsities, the not the varsity squad in high school sports. You want to bring your proper team to go compete. Christopher with the crap, mega crap. It's the J.K. Simmons version of J. Jonah Jameson from the Tobey Maguire and Sam Raimi Spider-Mans. Very, very good. And then Zarly88 with a little return here to the script with what's the point? We'll try to get to that during this episode because it's a question that doesn't feel like there's a lot of answers right now.
Well, look, we obviously, have to work on that. But Zarly and crew, thank you so much for providing a little bit of firepower. Nick, can you follow up that act?
Season at crossroads.
And you going left, going right, maybe just going to stay there.
We'll see. We will sure see. It's going to be very interesting.
All right. I went with a different project. Something we've been hearing a little bit about lately. So I think we're just going to go ahead and have to talk about that and try to break that down. But Dan, what about you?
So in the era of streaming, this may not ring as true, but there were times when television was only delivered at set hours and you couldn't just get it all on demand. I'm going to say not appointment programming. This Chelsea side is just a little too inconsistent to be trying to navigate a corporate workday and figuring out how to get out to a pub or to watch it with some colleagues and make that a part of the day. It is more of a, how do I get it done? Or is it worth maybe the time in that exact moment? Because you don't know what Chelsea's going to show up. And I think that is a question people are asking, or at least what I'm observing people are asking.
Well, fair enough. I absolutely struggled with that balance that you said, but we won't get into it because I'd hate to incriminate myself. So instead, I mean, Nick, we just want to give a shout out to everybody, a little bit of a thanks, and obviously always an ask. If you are our friend, here's how you can help.
Yeah, of course, 5-star reviews, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We say it every week. We need more. So if you're tired of listening to us harp about it, go put one in there. We may read a couple out here in a bit. Of course, if you are on YouTube, if you're a YouTuber, Brandon and Jake are putting a ton of effort to getting those videos up on YouTube. We've grown quite a bit there. We really want to hit 30K, so go on over and help it out. Of course, if you do want to provide us with a couple of extra dollars a month, that is what Discord is for. You can head on over and do that. And then, of course, our newsletter is available. Sam wrote a wonderful newsletter that was disproven mere hours later by the performance that we saw on the field, which was unfortunate. But Sam does an excellent job. It's not his fault that the team did not show up today.
A lot going on there. But we should just jump into the match, right? It was Manchester United this past Wednesday, the 6th of December, in the Premier League at Old Trafford, which is falling apart. In case you missed it, somehow, Manchester United 2, Chelsea 1. The goals coming in the 19th minute from who else than Scott frickin' McTominay, right? 45th minute, Cole Palmer, cool as a cucumber, levels it up, and then Scott McTominay with the winner. I can't believe you didn't put in Bruno Fernandes missing a penalty, Dan.
Look, it's not fun to point fingers at people failing to do things when you failed to win. So we're just moving on.
Absolutely wrong. Would love to challenge that on another day when we have time. But go ahead and run us through the lineup just to set the stage so we can get into it.
Well, Robert Sanchez was between the sticks. Was Mark Cucurella at right back, Axel Disasi, Thiago Silva, and Levi Colwell captaining the side as your back four. Moises Caicedo, Enzo Fernandez, and Cole Palmer as a bit of a midfield combination with Raheem Sterling and Mikhailo Mudryk back behind Nico Jackson, who was running it up top, or trying to. Reece James did come in right at halftime, and then Armando Broja came in the 77th minute. Everybody else, unused subs, Washington, Matos, Leo Cassadine went in along with Benoit Badiashile, Ian Matson, Alfie Gilchrist, and Petrovic, all unused.
All right. We're going to skip the stats. There's a lot to get into, but you know what? It's just a little bit too much. Look, NVET shithouse mode of the match. I mean, are we just blitzing through, Nick?
No, look, I think it is fair to say, to kind of start this one off, that this was a terrible performance. It's probably the worst performance of the year. I know we lost at Newcastle by more. I know that we played, pretty terrible football against Nottingham Forest, but this was the worst performance of the year for me. The mood on Twitter, we were talking about this before we started. People that I really like and appreciate their perspectives, people that I don't like and don't appreciate their perspectives. Seemingly everyone on the same page after this one, that this is it's an alarm bell for the season. Unfortunately for this podcast, we have had alarm bell podcasts over the last 2 or 3 years where it's like, something doesn't smell right. This is a difficult moment. And so I think we're going to treat this podcast a little bit differently. We're going to try and talk through some of the bigger picture items and of course, talk through the horrific performance that we all witnessed today. And, I think that's just the mood of everybody right now, whether you're a person that I genuinely appreciate or not. It seems like everyone is pretty pissed off about what they saw.
Yeah, well, look, that's a very fair point. A lot of the normalcy is out of it, right? Especially midweek, that probably adds a little bit to it and how we shake it up. But we are going to take the first ad break. When we get back, we're going to go into the reaction to the performance, and then we're going to kind of take that macro lens. So thank you to the sponsors, and we'll be right back. What is going on, Chelsea fans? Exciting announcement. We have joined up with Team Manscaped again for this holiday season. That's right, we are back with Manscaped. I know how much you loved their ads before, so we are going to partner up with them again this holiday season. If you're looking for a gift to upgrade your daily care routine, right? check out the brand new Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. That's right. We got the new one here. So as you are used to with these trimmers, it is skin safe technology. We got the dual head system, waterproof. You can use it in the shower, USB-C, quick charge option, dual temp LED spotlight, and it's got a travel lock. So the kit that we're recommending you get is the 5.0 Ultra. Comes with the razor itself, comes with 2 of the combs, and then it also comes with the foil blade. You've got all options here that comes with it. Now check this thing out. It is built great, nice and sturdy, good weight to it. You can hear, you got some good RPMs in there. Check out the light for those of you on YouTube. That's right. You got 2 different brightnesses on there that you have. The other reason we love Manscaped is that they are part of the Testicular Cancer Society, right? They save balls. They're all about helping men with their daily grooming routines as well as what they're going through life. So we appreciate them and everything they do. Check it out. Again, Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. Link in the description. Check it out. Link in the description. Let them know that you came to them through London is Blue so that they can continue a partnership with us. Check them out. All right. So we're obviously not going to sugarcoat this one. As Nick so eloquently put just a second ago. The first half, we can start there, right? On the road, midweek, played down a man against Brighton for 55 plus minutes or whatever, just days ago. Dan, you want to lean into the fact that we got outshot 18-5 in the first half. Poch, his quote was, they started brighter than us, talked about lacking or we're unable to match the energy. When you put stats like that, obviously it's very, very lopsided.
Yeah, I would not echo Pochettino's comments about the team having given their all in this match. I think that was a little oversold and tonally the incorrect way to present what happened. I do think he was right in assessing that Man United were better on the day and came to play hard. I think there was some super inconsistent officiating. I mean, if Luke Shaw is kicking the ball away and the first one's a yellow, the second one should be a yellow, and there's plenty of tiny things to complain about. But this has been the season of Chelsea being up to perform in a game and go out and manufacture results and get something done like they did against Brighton, and then to walk in the next match a little bit expecting that they can perform where they're at and eke out a result. And that is not the reality of this team. We don't have one individual that is a match winner like the Eden Hazard era. There's not a combination of players. So if one goes silent or goes missing, maybe like Raheem Sterling with his form in this match today, Nick, that there's not someone who can step up and will this over the line. And I think because of that, this Chelsea team is not going to find, for a little bit more of a time, I think, the consistency that we as supporters have known recently in the past 2 decades, and maybe not be able to kind of make us as happy as a football club, as a football product in the short term at minimum.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the stats, I mean, that tells you one thing, but just using your eyeballs, I was blown away by how unserious we were in this game. Everybody, top to bottom, Poch all the way down to the last sub, terrible. I rated it a 0 out of 10 performance. It was completely unserious. Clearly the legs weren't there to compete against the United team that were desperate to win. There would have been a time back in the glory days where losing 2-1 at Old Trafford wasn't that big of a deal. These two teams used to compete at such a high level that, surely we'd win at the Bridge and they'd win at Old Trafford. And, splitting points during a season, against the Sir Alex Ferguson team was difficult enough, let alone trying to beat them twice. This is the worst United team we've seen in a long time. They're very bad. They're not impressive. They don't play good football. they just bullied us all day. I mean, the team was completely unserious, and you get outshot 18-5. You turn the ball over that much in midfield, or you're not even able to pass it to each other at all from goal. You're going to get beat, and frankly, it should have been worse. Brandon, this should have been 4 or 5 in the first half for them, and we're lucky that they're as bad as they are because they had some gilt-edged chances, including a penalty, of course, that you tip Fernandez to make most of the time. It was unserious, and for a team that desperately needs wins in 10th place in the Premier League, that is unacceptable.
Yeah, you talk about the first half, like credit for the team to stay in it. To your point, could have been way out of sorts. And so like there's always a level of, all right, stealing a bit of a result here on the road. Great. Not our best lineup, but my word, I would take our lineup over theirs in a heartbeat. You go position for position. There's maybe 1 or 2 players you bring in, but not with this group. I mean, they've got Amrabat playing as a holding mid, right? You've got Diego Dallo and Victor Lindelof and Harry Maguire in the back line. Like this was not the cream of the crop that, to your point, you're looking for. And I think who was the man of the match? Yeah. 7.8 was McTominay, but Sanchez was an 8.1 on SofaScore. So it's like you had one player rated an 8. Like this was just a bad game. Like this wasn't the Premier League's battle of the bigs that they're putting on cable so everyone sees. Like they were smart to hide this on Peacock, and they probably thought they were doing it to drive subscriptions. They were not.
That was not going to do it. No.
Not
great. There's a refund request if that's the reason somebody signed up today.
I think it's a tough look, but to your point, Chelsea did enough to stay in it. Cole Palmer getting the goal right for halftime, breathed life into this team. So even if you get slaughtered for 44 minutes, you get the goal, you go into halftime. This is where you want to see the tides change, Dan, right? This is where you want to see some proactive changes, at least the mentality coming out at halftime with the upper hand, because it only lasts for so long. And unfortunately, I mean, we got a Reece James sub at halftime, right? That didn't seem to necessarily be a positive spark. He looked not sharp.
Well, I don't even think it's just that he didn't look sharp. I think the right-hand side was really getting roughed up. I mean, Sterling was not necessarily tracking back as quickly to try to get involved, to get stuck in. I think the absence of Conor Gallagher, who has only himself to blame for not being in this match because he's the one who picked up the second yellow card in the last match. Boy, oh boy, yes, it would have been great to have him in this match. That was not an injury issue. That was a him issue. And I think that made it really difficult for Caicedo, who I thought under the circumstances did not have a terrible game, but also could have been, like many of the players in the day, a little bit better. I just think, and this maybe will get us in the later part of the pod, the question is, you do have some players on the bench. You don't have maybe the exact player or profile that you want. I mean, we're getting ready to bring in Ian Motson, which I kind of thought that was the sub that we were going to make to try to add a little bit of something into the side. I mean, we've seen Motson score goals in preseason and think that maybe he could do something. And then we could see the goal. And then he gets told to sit back down. And it's, okay, well, let's get somebody else warmed up here. And Armando Broya doesn't come on for another 8 minutes. And then has 13 minutes plus stoppage time to try to make the difference. And we're not shooting. We're not shooting enough. We're not shooting on target. We're not converting big chances. It's all not good, Nick. All of that is not good. In the second half, I thought the first 25 minutes were kind of the worst part. Maybe the first 20 minutes might have been the worst parts of the season. The back half of this match was worse than the beginning part of this match.
Yeah, completely. I couldn't agree more. I mean, it was, you expect oh man, we had some pretty good fortune. We're back into this 1-1. We should have buried them. We are a better team than they are. And they completely and utterly overwhelmed us. There was no tactical plan in this match at all. The personnel that was selected was absolutely wrong from the start. And in the second half, the energy, whatever limited energy we had in the first half, was completely and utterly gone. And I don't know, Brandon, how you felt about it, but I don't know how many more times this team has the second half come back in them. We've exercised that muscle a lot this year so far. And it just looked like they were completely out of ideas and pretty toothless at the end of it. I know we had one, Broya chance against the bar at the end. But other than that, it was completely pathetic from a passing perspective. Players were overrunning passes. They were not syncing up on things. Even Cole Palmer, who was easily the best player that we had on the day, was probably a 5 out of 10 in the passing department. It was just horrific.
Look, that's a lot of it, right? Poch, what do you guys feel like when Poch kind of stacks the deck beforehand and was like, hey, we're going to have a lot of young players? It's not an excuse, but, like the bench is thin, essentially. I feel like it doesn't really give confidence in those players. He tried to make up for it, I think, right before the match. I think he was kind of made aware of how it came across in that sense, but it doesn't do the team, I think, really any justice there. But just the two subs, which Reece James seemed pre-planned, according to the post-match. Again, Ian Motson could have offered something different, right? Because whatever we had wasn't it. Mudryk came out. Jackson stayed on. Like, Raheem had one of his worst days out. It just, I don't know. I don't know why he wasn't willing to make more changes unless he was afraid it would only get worse. And at that point, you could be throwing Benoit on for defensive cover. But we didn't do that either. We just, I don't know, kind of felt like we just accepted it. We just sat in a pile of shit.
Yeah, that's exactly, right? I mean, that's exactly what happened. Like, if you were serious about winning this game, well, first of all, you would have picked a different starting lineup than what you picked, and even limited resources and all. Second of all, you would have put Armando Broya on at halftime. It was clearly not going to work. Nico was not on it today. He had plenty of, at least 2 or 3 good chances that I remember. I'm sure, people will say, oh, he had more, but he should have converted. Couldn't. Passing with him and Sterling was terrible. There was, and you make the point about Motson. He was supposed to come on. He was like getting ready to come on. And then the minute that they scored their second goal, apparently we pulled him back as if the offense that we had thrown out there to that point was just killing it. I mean, it was, when I say it's unserious, that's one of like the worst criticisms I can give. I'm not going to come and like call people out or say that they're whatever, they didn't try at all, but like it didn't look like there was a ton of effort out there, or if there was, they were just physically not able to compete in the Premier League, which is even scarier. But it was unserious. The whole approach to the game was unserious. And the thing that pissed me off about this is a golden opportunity to get 3 points against a team that's above you in the table. Like that, it means the difference between going 2 points behind them if you beat them, and going on a run. And this team, if they want to go anywhere this year, has to go on a run where they pick up 2, 3, 4 victories in a row, start climbing the table a little bit, getting out of 10th. And it just feels like that's not going to happen.
It is not, right? And this is what we kind of talked about. Okay, Newcastle down, Brighton up. Now we're back to Manchester United down. Like, what are we going to do at the weekend? Can we really trust ourselves to go do something positive in that sense? And that's where we're unfortunately left a little bit holding the bag and trying to understand where it's going to go next. Again, Everton away it's becoming less and less easy, which is frustrating. We're on 19 points. We should easily be over the 20 mark at this point, level with Brentford, and they don't even have their star striker Ivan Toney. Dan, last thing here is comparison. Chelsea after 15 matches. Last season, the 2022-2023, we had won 7, drawn 3, lost 5. And I believe Potter would still be in charge at this point. This year, the 2023-2024 season, win 5, draw 4, lost 6, 19 points. 5 points fewer than what we would consider one of the worst seasons for Chelsea in modern history.
And the first part of that season was benefited by some Tuchel results that carried the entirety of the season too. So, yeah, I mean, you can't build it any other way than a regression. It is a regression year over year at this point, and we're 40% of the way through the season. 39.5 if you want to be specific about it. Like, there is not a lot of room. There's 60% of the season left, but if your form doesn't change, there's not a lot of room to end the season better than maybe where we're at right now. And I think that is the more concerning part, is like the concrete at a certain point, Nick, starts to set, and it gets harder and harder to make a change or write something in, and you're just going to get stuck where you are because you have less runway. The teams above you are continuing to put points on the board. The teams behind you are continuing to press up, and you don't have the ability or the time to get up the table and meet where you want to be. The club has indicated they want to be back in Europe. The supporters want Chelsea to be back in Europe. The players want to be playing European football again. We all have the same end goal. It's just, it feels like every match, it is further and further away.
We're 8 points off 6th. 8 points. That's a shit ton of points, guys. I mean, it's a shit ton of points when you can't string results together. It's a shit ton of points when you're giving up goals at a rate that is completely unacceptable for where we should be in the table. 24 goals given up this season. Just for reference, the top 6 have given up 14, 14, 20, 17, 20, 18. Like Manchester United are bad, and they are 8 points better than we are right now in the table because they are able to eke out results, and we are not. And you know, like your point about the concrete setting, man, I feel it. I can't imagine the club don't feel it. The supporters in the stadium, online, everywhere that I saw today were feeling it. I don't know what more there is to say. I mean, I think my snap reaction after this game was anger at having to watch that and fear for what it means. When I say the season's at a crossroads in my 3-word match review, I think it could kind of go either way. I think the worst possible result is still out there for us. We go on a bad slide. Poch isn't deemed to be the guy. We're doing manager roulette again. We maybe end up in a relegation battle. And I see this team possibly turning it around, getting Nkunku back, getting healthier than we are right now, which is abysmal again because we can't keep players healthy for reasons that pass understanding. And the team starts to figure it out and trust each other and goes on a tear of results. I genuinely don't know which way this is going to go, Brandon. I don't know if you have any predictions, but my head is leaning more towards the former.
Well, we've definitely got some to lean into, I think, and we want to get to that where we really kind of talk. What the call to action was A, how concerned are you, and what are your top 3 concerns? The engagement was off the charts from this one. So we're going to get into all of that. Maybe we can kind of take that macro step. We're going to take a last ad break when we get back. Again, Dan, you got to get this graphic on social. I can't believe that you put Smokey the bear here with your fire danger, but it worked well. So thank you to the sponsors, and we'll be right back. All right, as we mentioned, Dan, you got the Smokey the Bear, right? The fire danger. It's like when you go hiking Hey, what is the level of danger for fires? Low, moderate, high, very high, extreme. He's sitting there with the shovel because you just throw some dirt on the fire. That'll put it out. Are we preventing wildfires? Or are we promoting wildfires with this?
Only you can prevent forest fires. You got to do that.
Only you can prevent your team getting relegated. Look, it's the National Fire Danger Rating System, Brandon Busby. It does have an official name, so we should get that correct. But look, I just thought this was the best way to kind of put it, because if I'm like an Aston Villa supporter, I'm on the low side. I've got zero concern. Life is wonderful. We just beat Manchester City today. It was fantastic. And then there's the extreme, which is more like the bottom of the table case for like a Sheffield United or a Burnley. And then there's the moderate, high, and very high that sit in between all of those. And yeah, I thought it was just a thought exercise of figuring out where we exist on that spectrum at the moment. And Nick, I think I'm very high. I think I'm in the orange, trending above the yellow. I trended from the yellow into the orange after this match because I think that we've had enough time to figure out a way to get a result with the caliber of players we have on a more consistent basis. And I think that, given everything else, I think that is the football has not improved, enough with we're going to go out and win games to make me feel better.
But what are you concerned about? That it's going to go backwards. We're not going to make Europe. What is the concern?
My concern that puts me very high. I don't think we are going to make Europe at this point. I don't realistically have a path forward for us. And I was looking at games left to play from all the teams above us. Some have easier schedules remaining. Some have, better run rates in terms of average goals per match at the moment, or the points that they're picking up per match. And that has me concerned because, again, we have less runway. We have less runway than we did 5 games ago to get this right. And a match like this against Manchester United, a winnable match against Arsenal that we gave away, a match against Newcastle and dreadfully, we have had some good performances against really big sides. Like the Tottenham match was great. The City match, even though we didn't win, was still great to punch at that level and to compete and be competitive. But we are running out of time to get back to where we want to be. And that's going to be another season out of Europe. That's going to be a hit to our recruitment. It's going to be a hit to our finances. It's going to be a hit to players potentially wanting to, do they want to go? Do they want to stay? I think it has a lot of cascading impact to not get into Europe. And I mean, yes, a cup victory would be great, but it's hard to see this team winning that at this point now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm high. I know, when I say I'm at a crossroads, I'm dead in the middle on the crossroads thing. I'm at the yellow bar, but I understand why you're at the orange. I mean, I think when you look at the math and you look at, the teams that we have beaten largely, below us in the table, everyone above us is going to beat those teams too. You realistically look at, the way that United are playing, the way that Villa are playing, Spurs are playing, everyone's going to beat Luton. Everyone's going to beat Sheffield. Those are givens in this very odd Premier League season where you have 3 distinguishably terrible teams. So beating those teams does us, of course it does us good from a points perspective, but it doesn't do us good when we look at climbing up. And I think the thing I'm most worried about right now, and the reason that I'm dead in the middle, Brandon, is it's inexperience. This team is completely brand new. They don't know how to play with each other yet. They don't know how to trust each other yet. And that inexperience was on full display against Manchester United, who are an older, savvier, more physical team than we are. And experience means that sometimes you can eke out results that you shouldn't have eked out. Experience means that you know how to adapt to situations that are maybe not the most favorable. And experience means that you might be able to go on a run where you don't lose for 7 matches, right? You might not win them all, but you might throw a couple of draws in there that you wouldn't have had otherwise. All those points count towards top 6, count towards top 4. The only reason that I am not in the orange is because we have your prediction for leading goal scorer hopefully on the verge of coming back. And I don't want to completely shut this season down without having seen him get a run in the team. And that's Nkunku for those who are playing along at home. But I'm as close to orange as you can be in the yellow category.
Yeah, I think to put my spin on it, right? It's kind of like the what, because I think like if you scroll social media, there's a lot of naming.
Would not recommend.
Yeah, there's a lot of naming of names, right? Like people don't want Sanchez. Weird day to say that. They don't want Connor. They don't want Jackson. They don't want Mudryk. They don't want Thiago. I mean, it's just to the point where it's just general lack of interest. And so what I look at it with the team is like what I'm concerned about our lack of cohesiveness and any sense of stability at this club. So I'd say like I am very concerned about the instability that is at Chelsea recently. I think it all kind of trickles down from there in different ways. And, 48 hours ago, Chelsea fans were having a nice little chuckle. Hey, rock up to Old Trafford, wax United, Ten Hag might not make it. Now all of a sudden we got to turn around and look at ourselves and be like, okay, what are we doing? We need to stop getting excited after 1 victory. We need 3 victories or an unbeaten run of 3. But there is constant lack of stability at this club right now that is preventing any sense of an ability to level up. And so that's where we get into these top 3 concerns. So Dan, obviously, being the smart person you are, you outsource this work because why do it ourselves when we can have our lovely listeners get
It's all AI, Betty. It's all AI. AI
what is
came
this,
up with
Sports
these
Illustrated?
Oh,
Tough.
ChatGPT.
If only.
So playing the role of a sports reporter, what would your top 3 concerns be for Chelsea Football Club this season? You got to use 4, not 3.5. It's worth the paid upgrade. Look, the ones that people suggested across Discord and X, I tried to pick out the buckets when we asked this, and it went from the ownership. Do they have a plan? Football operations, which I think meant when Stanley and Stewart, are they competent enough? The manager, will he get it done? The players, and to your point, Brandon, specific players not being good enough, and just generally the squad, profile of signings, banking too much on potential versus proven ability was a big one, big theme. The culture at the club seemingly being non-existent. And again, I would couch this as the men's team because the women's team is also just on a tear and continues to be on a tear. Like this is just the men's side seems to have the issue. The health and fitness of the players, the injury issues persisting, not being up and ready for 60 minutes, the character going missing on the pitch. I mean, these were just some of them. And then I did enjoy a friend of the pod, David Pastors. He took it a different way. He just went with number 1, the next game. Number 2, the game after that. And number 3, the growing sense of cosmic dread.
Some, I would say obvious things, Nick. Maybe some less obvious things, at least from my perspective, which is why it also keeps it interesting and why we love to hear, what our community is up to and what their thoughts are. What about you? Is there one out of that stands out that you're like, I didn't think about that? They might be onto something.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking through these, and thanks to everyone who commented on that. I know we had a ton of responses, and sometimes after a bad result, those are a tonic to kind of ale our wounds. So, I mean, I think anything related with front office ownership at this point in the season is kind of a tough shout. Their job was done on September 1st, right? Or they're planning for a January window. Like, this is all about the people who are working in the team right now, who are putting out a product on the field. Paul Winstanley and Lawrence Stewart aren't down there training the boys every day. So, I think, I think there's some bigger picture stuff that was a part of this thing that I will kind of exclude because I'm kind of looking at like, how do you get right now first? And so that's kind of where I'm at. But my three are consistency in results and approach and effort, right? Those are three things. Injuries and mentality. I think the team legitimately walked into Old Trafford today expecting to win. I think they legitimately walked into Newcastle a couple weeks ago and expected to win and got absolutely fucking waxed. I genuinely don't know if they were ready to play at Old Trafford. And for a manager like Mauricio Pochettino, for as savvy as he is and as experienced as he is in the Premier League, and as shorthanded as we were today, to have such a casual approach to the game, I worry about that. I really do. I mean, that does not show me a ton of experience and savvy. So those three things are the things that will carry us into the points and into the top 6-8, or those things will make us really sweat it out toward the end of the season.
I wonder, and I always try to like figure out like how much is in your control, right? Within these things, because some of it is just dumb luck, statistical probabilities of things happening and not happening. But Dan, I think you're taking a little bit different approach to it. I think yours is almost like more of a 30, 60, 90 day FY24 plan based on how you have this laid out here.
Never been a business manager before. No, it cannot be me.
Is this a Jam graph? Can we do that or whatever it's called?
Like a Kanban board?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you're thinking of. Look, no filing juras to get my feedback on this one. I think the first one is fitness. Like, we came into this season so excited about the fact that Chelsea were going to play fewer games this season because we had a young squad, because we needed to gel, because we wanted Poch to have the time with them. And even though we've had less games than some of our competition who've been playing in Europe, who have also had, potentially cup games as well, like, we are just not a fit side. It was shown out in this game. It's borne out in other games. There are players who look great for a couple of stretches and then they fall off, like to the consistency point Nick had. I mean, that's a fitness thing. It's a byproduct of not training appropriately, not putting ourselves in a position to be correct. And I mean, this is a multi-million pound to hundreds of millions of pounds problem for Chelsea. And I'm not saying that we were the only team that has to go figure out fitness for players in the modern era, but having Christopher Nkunku out, having Malo Gusto out, having some of these players out with tissue, soft tissue issues, like, every point we miss at the end of the season is relative to the amount of points of dollars and pounds that Chelsea get paid out from the average, the monetary value that the Premier League gets from broadcasting rights. Getting into Europe and achieving at a higher level, like, fitness has to be solved. Like, if you don't get the fitness thing figured out, we're never going to have a better game on the pitch. And I think that ties into this whole idea that, like, the football operations as a whole still feel off. Like, we had like a very self-congratulatory tone almost in a article for Chelsea FC with like the first interview with Winstanley and Stewart. And, I think there was, maybe a moment to feel good about like what we had done, the work we had done, and winning on signing some of the players that we were after. But we have a side now where when you look at the average age, right, we're 25.7 is our average squad age, which is really pushed up by Thiago Silva being involved in that at 39, anchors it pretty high up there. And our opponent total is 26.7. So almost a year and a half difference. And in the Premier League of experience, like, we know that can be extremely valuable. And I think that maybe we're a little naive, thinking that we could get away with losing, players that were not everybody's favorite, right? Like, not everybody loved Antonio Rudiger, but that had a knock-on effect to having to go out and get a center back to replace them, to get players. And like, we need to get that right. And I think Ollie Glanville, friend of the pod, pointed out Like, not having a true sporting director sitting over all of this is going to continue to be a problem until we get something figured out there. And that ties into the culture at the club, which is like the fight and the mentality, like, it does not get sustained. Like, we show up every other match or every other night and we can kind of like really put one together. And then a result like this at a ground like Old Trafford against a team like United, even if United are in a terrible run of it, like, we're Chelsea. Like, I mean, I don't know how else to say it, Brandon. Like, we have a expectation. There should be a pride. And we see it in the moments when like a player scores and points to the badge and we're all excited. But then they walk out and we see that. And it's not great.
I think for me, the lack of consistency is what I said earlier, right? And so to me, I'm so frustrated at the injuries. Again, like Madueke, he was on the bench and then injured. We've said this about Enzo. We've said this. How many times do people get injured in training at Cobham? Like, unacceptable. Reece James constantly unfit. Why? Right? Chukwuemeka, I think, restarted his rehab program. Lavia restarted his rehabilitation program. This is not helpful in any way, shape, or form. The injuries, and this goes into fitness, right, is like, it's shocking. The self-inflicted wounds and the constant setbacks. Like, we've spent too much money on players. And by we, I mean not we, the club, to have these assets, these players on the sideline. It's just unacceptable. The other thing that I had was discipline that I don't think a lot of us has really talked about. I quote tweeted the Poch line about Naz tweeted out that Poch was like, yeah, it's not discipline, it's the rules have changed. My man.
Stop.
My man.
Stop, man.
Have the rules changed? Yes, but they've changed for everybody, and we're by far and away ahead. And I know people are like, look, the referees are handing out cards at a fast rate this season. I get that. The point is we are leading the table in cautions. And it's stupid cautions. It's not, hey, you got to go whack somebody to prove a point or to get a physical edge or a mental battle on someone. It's dissent. It's Jackson. It's kicking the ball away. It's stupid yellow cards that rule changes don't matter because they go over it in preseason. Other people have adapted to it. And I think we're getting in situations, our defenders are picking up a lot of stupid cautions as well, or even our wingers tracking back, where we ended up making dumb tactical fouls, quote unquote tactical, and picking up cautions again. You just think of Reece James, Conor Gallagher, obviously in the last 2 weeks as well. There's 4 right there that didn't need to happen. And so I think that, again, this lack of discipline is really hurting the team. And I think this is where you always talk about squad composition and like, hey, you need some old heads to guide the young heads. And, there's not a lot of quote unquote old heads in this team across it at all because they're going for the money ball play, right? Buy a bunch of players on potential, a few of them break through and you sell the rest. But right now we're going through so much learning that it is painful. Cole Palmer seems to have figured it out. Young players can do it. So there's really no excuse there. So I think discipline was a big one. But I got a lot of heat for that on social media, and I don't think I'm wrong. I think Poch could own that a little bit more as the manager.
And let me tack onto that. Like, discipline is not just can we get less cards. Discipline is understanding the game plan and the rules so that you don't put yourself in a position to get
set
more
piece
cards.
Discipline. That would be my third one. Set pieces have been abysmal.
Discipline means a lot of different things. It means that this team abides by a code, that they understand the rules, that they are physical without necessarily getting fouls and cautions against them. It means a ton of different stuff. And, especially for a young team, I couldn't think of I love the last one that you put in there. I couldn't think of a more important thing than discipline. I mean, good Lord. It means eating right. It means, that you're training well every day. It means that you're doing a bunch of this stuff, that you're understanding the game plan. And for Poch, it means that you're disciplined too. It means that you're not getting dumbass cautions and missing matches. It means that you're taking responsibility when shit goes off the rails. Like, I was super disappointed with his press conference today, by the way. I thought that it was a clown show. You just watched the worst performance of the season and literally gave the Potter line, the boys gave it all, I can't be disappointed. I'm fucking disappointed. Like, a bunch of people are disappointed. Read the room, man. A little bit of discipline there would be tremendous. So, I don't know why we're more fired up than he showed in that post-match press conference. I thought, after a match like that, it'd be a hairdryer of a press conference, and none of the reporters were tweeted out something outrageous. And I was like, wow, we just accepted it. Cool.
It's a process. As I said at the beginning, a different project. That's how Poch sums it all up. Obviously, we didn't do Dan of the match. We didn't win. Remember, this United team just lost 1-0 to Newcastle. It's not like they're flying high, even though they somehow have the best record statistically in the defense. But, whatever. But Dan, we were not the biggest shock. If anything, this was two mid-table clubs with blindfolds on in a boxing match. There were other interesting results from the Premier League that have happened so far. And correct me if I'm wrong, there's one more round of matches on Thursday.
Yeah, there's Everton, Newcastle, and Tottenham, West Ham. Look, Luton scored as many goals by themselves in this match week as Chelsea and United did combined. So credit to the Hatters. Well done, even though that, if they could have beat Arsenal, it would have been perfect, but it ended 4-3 to the Gunners. Wolves beat Burnley 1-0. Brighton came back and got it over Brentford 2-1. Bournemouth, again, continuing to punch up, beats up on Crystal Palace 2-0. Fulham just absolutely working for us. It's basically, I view it as just a come good for the fact that Andre Santos hasn't played. 5-0 to Fulham. Liverpool winning 2-0 over Sheffield. No new manager bounce or even word of new manager bounce improving it. Aston Villa beating Man City, though, was the biggest result on the day. And
thoroughly deserved, by the way.
Credit to them.
They were massively better.
They have played fantastic football all season. And there is still good football to watch, Nick. It just usually isn't involving the Chelsea men's team.
No one wearing blue, unfortunately. Tomorrow you have Everton, Newcastle, which should be a slugfest, and then Tottenham, West Ham, which is always hilarious in its own way. I mean, look, it's been a different pod, guys. We didn't really know what to do with this. I think we've constructed some arguments for the future. 40% into the season, the table is not looking good, and that is just the facts, Brandon. We're in a disadvantageous position.
Absolutely. It's the situation as it stands. I mean, 10th place, 19 points. We had a limp United. I think the player, I texted this to Dan Silves. It felt like the United players were offering up Ten Hag. They're not really playing for him. But we just rolled over and gave them hope. And they didn't ask for it, but we gave it to them. And that was the biggest frustration, too. So anyways, they're at 6 on 27 points. They shot up, right? We were 3 points away from them before this. So that's a 6-point swing in the wrong direction. Like you said, we're 6 points off 8th, right? 8 points off 6th. Not the situation we should be finding ourselves in. So
we are what 17 points off Arsenal. They almost have double our points in first place.
Our goal difference is down to 2, by the way. So that is becoming an uncomfortable reality.
We're only ahead of Brentford on goals for.
Yes.
Because they also have a 2-goal differential in 11th. Fulham are underwater in 18 points and 12th, but not good. I mean, and you want to look at like your teams above you. Like, it's not going to be easy to scrap past West Ham this season. It's not going to be easy to scrap past Brighton. Will play better. Newcastle are obviously better than they've shown in seventh. United are shit, but they're in sixth. They keep getting results. You expect a Spurs drop off. You expect City to play better. Villa are playing way above themselves. Maybe regress a little bit, but wouldn't bet on that. Liverpool and Arsenal are kind of the class of the league. And I don't know. Seems difficult to me.
Yeah, look, everyone was always going to be fighting for that fourth spot, right? And whether it was Tottenham, United, Newcastle, but the fact that, to your point, you have to grind past West Ham and Brighton just to be in the conversation, it shouldn't be this difficult. We have a super talented team, Pochettino, top manager. It's just the pieces aren't clicking. They're not coming together. So we got to travel away to Everton next to turn on our fortunes. And again, we don't do it the easy way. So maybe we'll surprise ourselves. Not a lot of rest, not a lot of time to recover, to game plan. They travel back Wednesday. They're going to do recovery Thursday. They're going to run through the game plan Friday, and that's about it. So the players just have to dig deep and turn it around. There's not a week of preparation. It's December. That is gone. So anything else, Dan, that you want to get in before we wrap?
Only thing I would say is that, look, football should hopefully not define all of your joy in life. So, go find something. If Chelsea is not giving you good times at the moment, go find something to make you happy, because we're in the festive season. This is a time for hanging out with friends and loved ones and, doing stuff that brings you joy. And look, we'll always be here because, we apparently hate ourselves at times being up at, getting close to 11, Central Time in the evening. But, we get it done. And we'll be here even if you need to take a break. Put yourself first, Nick.
Well, let's take this extra day of rest that we have that Everton don't, because they're playing Newcastle on Thursday, and leverage it to our advantage somehow before the match on Sunday. Anyways, that's it. More content coming at you all week, right? Obviously, we'll get another preview. More Blue Royalty. There's stuff coming, so make sure to stay plugged in. But until next time, Chelsea fans, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high.